سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So we'll just do a very quick revision of what we did last week and then move on to the sunnah of the wudu. So we mentioned that there are 4 fara'id that are common to all the schools, which is the washing of the face, the wiping of the hair, the washing of the arm, and the washing of the feet. So there are 3 washing and 1 wiping. And we mentioned details of what is the boundaries of each of those things. And we mentioned some details of how they're done, but we'll go into further details into that. We added that Imam al-Shafi'i has the niyyah, and also the order has to be in the sequence that is present in the Quran, which is the face, then the arms, and the head, and then the feet. And then we mentioned that Imam Malik has 3 additional conditions, which is the niyyah, the dalk, and the consecutive action. The dalk we mentioned, which was the rubbing of the limbs. And Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal included the mouth and the nose as part of the face, and he included the ears as part of the head. So those things become fard in his madhab. And he also has the order as a faridah. I want to give you a grammatical point here, because you're all, mashallah, students of knowledge, and you all have, keen eyes. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the waw, the grammarians are of 2 opinions. So he says, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ, right? So there's a waw between wujuhakum and aydikum. And so one opinion in the grammarians is that the waw denotes order. And another opinion is that the waw does not denote order. So Imam Shafi'i went that we take the waw in the Quran to mean order, and therefore the order is a faridah. And Imam Abu Hanifa said that the waw does not denote order, so it's not a faridah, but for him it is a sunnah. The difference is technical only. So today, inshallah, we'll go through what are the sunnah of the wudu. And probably the first thing to understand is that each of the schools have a different view on what is definition of sunnah. So on the one hand, for example, Imam al-Shafi'i has a faridah, and then his next category is sunnah. He has wajibat in hajj, but by and large in his madhab is faridah and sunnah. And the sunnah is something that is rewarded. And on the other hand, you have Imam Abu Hanifa. He has fard, he has wajib, sunnah mu'akkada, sunnah, mandub, mubah, and then even in makruh he has 2 categories, makruh tanzihi, makruh tahrimi, and then haram. So he has a lot more detail in terms of the different categories. So when we say sunnah in the madhab of Imam al-Shafi'i, it means one thing, and when we say sunnah in the madhab of Imam Hanifa, it means something different. So when I say that, for example, Imam Abu Hanifa does not have the order as a faridah, he has it as a sunnah mu'akkada, which means a sunnah mu'akkada is something that you should not leave. If you left it for a reason, a valid reason, the wudu is valid. But you should not make it habitual, that you don't do the wudu out of order. Similarly, the niyyah is a sunnah mu'akkada. And so, although the wudu will be valid without the niyyah in the Hanafi madhab, he still requires you to do it because it is a sunnah mu'akkada. Okay? And I went through the technical definition of wajib and fard on Monday, so I won't repeat that. But if someone wants to ask after the class, they can. So I don't want to spend more time on the technicalities of what is the definition of sunnah, but it suffices for you to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has encouraged us to obey the Prophet over and over and over again in the Quran. So the sunnah is not something that you should understand that, oh, this is something I can leave. But in fact, what you should look at it and say is that the sunnah is something I should do regularly, and it should be a very good reason for leaving it. And the Sahaba Kiram used to practice the Sunnah thinking that this is something that we cannot leave. And we look at the Sunnah thinking that this is something additional and we can leave it. In fact, when the person is doing ibadah, the way he should look at it, right? We just prayed 4 rak'ah Isha. Hamza, where are you running off to? We just prayed 4 rak'ah of Isha. We all prayed 4 rak'ah of Isha, right? So what we need to be looking at is how do I maximize my reward for those 4 same rak'ah? And how is that going to be? By making the intention better, having as much ikhlas as possible in the intention, following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and the iman. These are the 3 things that increase the reward. So when we are learning fiqh, our whole niyyah is to learn what is the sunnah so that I can follow it. You don't learn what is the sunnah so you can leave it. But you also learned it, that in case one day something happened, then you ask yourself, well, is my wudu valid or not? Then you go back. These are the fara'id. If I've done those, my wudu is valid. If I haven't done the sunnahs, then the wudu is still valid, but you have lost some of the reward. Okay? So the way I'm going to teach this is that there are 17 sunnahs that are described in Nur al-Idah, and I'm going to go in that order. Okay? Primarily, 1 or 2 things I go here and there, but primarily this is what I'm going to do. But as I go through that, remember that some things are found in Shafi'i madhab and the Maliki madhab, and I'll point these out. Okay? So the first is say Bismillah, to say the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the ulama say that the sunnah is to say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. When you go technically in the books of fiqh, they don't actually say that you need to say all of that. And remember that Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal had the Bismillah as a faridah. Okay? So it is something that you should do regularly, because, as I said last week, that if one imam had the opinion that it's a faridah, then for all the others, they should take care. Right? Now, the question is, you were inside the toilet and there's najasa there. Should you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim or not? No, right? So how do you resolve that? One very simple method is that you flush the toilet. Most modern bathrooms, they have the basin and the toilet in the same room. So it's not possible for you to do wudu somewhere else. So the simple solution for that is that you flushed it. You have taken away the najasa. Here and there is tiny bits of najasa on the floor, or possibly here and there, and that's something that can be left. And you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim that way. And better for you to put the seat down. And another way to do it is that before you entered the toilet to do wudu, that the person said Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim before he went inside. Okay? And so he has said Bismillah, and then he went inside and has started his wudu. One of the adab of wudu is that a person says Bismillah with each new limb. Okay? And this is hard, but the reason I point this out is because if you don't say Bismillah with each limb, right, you're leaving one of the adab. So you have to do it in the toilet. Where else are you going to do it? If you have a special house and you have a basin outside the toilet, yeah, it's easy. But in general, people are doing wudu there. So if you flush the contents of the toilet away, close the lid, then there's no harm in saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in that place. Then the order of the wudu will be the hands, then the mouth, then the nose, the face, the arms, including the elbows, the head, the ears, and then the feet. You all have memorized this order, and this order is a sunnah. Okay? When you do the hands, even though the first faridah is the face, the Prophet ﷺ used to start with the hands. The hands are technically part of the arms. So if we are following the sunnah, we're actually doing part of the arm first, and then later on we are going to the face. And you will wash the hands, including the wrist. Okay? One thing I want to mention, which I should have mentioned last week, is that if there is something on the limbs that need to be washed that prevents the water reaching there, then the faridah is not complete. If you have nail polish, as an example, the water does not reach the nails, the wudu will not be valid. On the other hand, someone has something that is permeable. An example is ink. Right? You are writing with a pen, just like you are, and you got ink on your fingers. That does not prevent the water getting to the skin. Or someone has a tattoo. Alright? When he was rebellious, he put a tattoo on, and then he did istighfar. Does he need to remove the tattoo? There's a haraj, there's difficulties. He doesn't need to remove it. The tattoo is sinful, but he has done tawbah now. So now there's a tattoo all over him, he's full of tattoos. How can he do wudu on that? The tattoo doesn't stop the water getting to the skin. So it is valid. Alright? Paint is another classic one. You decided to paint your house, right? And then you got paint all over you, because that's what happens. You need to be careful and remove every bit of it so that the water gets to the place that needs to be washed. Okay, you went out to the garden and you got bits of dirt under your nails. Okay, will the wudu be valid or not? No.
I think it would be.
It would be?
I think, because it's going to go through, isn't it?
Well, so it depends on how big the nails are, right? So if we're talking about the dirt being underneath the nail, where the nail is come out, then you need to clean that section, okay? But if it is inside, then that's haraj there, and you don't need to clean that portion of it, okay? Because what will be washed is what is the outer part. And it is the outer part that is intended. So, for example, when someone's washing their face, and he closes his lips, like this, then what is washed is what is visible. Okay? And we will come on to that if you rinsed your mouth, you're going to cover your entire lips anyway. Right? But we'll come on to that, inshallah. The siwak is a sunnah. And the intent of the siwak is the cleaning of the teeth. Whether that is done with a toothbrush will complete the sunnah. If it is done with the siwak of the kind that the Prophet ﷺ used, that is closer to the sunnah. And in Nur al-Ida it is mentioned that if a person does not have a siwak, he can simply use his fingers to clean his mouth. When he is rinsing it, that will complete the sunnah. The rinsing of the mouth 3 times. And I should mention that one of the sunnah is to wash all the limbs 3 times, and we'll come to the details of that. There are 2 different ways to mention here. One of the ways is that a person takes water and he takes from the same handful 3 times. Okay? So he's taken water, he puts it in his mouth, he rinses his entire mouth out, and he spits it out. He has water left in the hand, he takes a 2nd time. He has water left in his hand, he takes it a 3rd time. Imam al-Shafi'i desires that you take 3 new handfuls for each mouthful. Right? And you do mubalagha of the rinsing. So you go as deeply as you can, except when you are fasting. Okay? Then when you come to the nose, you take water with the right hand, put it to the nostril, and you take it up to where the hard part of the nose starts. So we're talking about getting water to this depth here. And the sunnah is to go deeper, except if the person is fasting. When you come to during the adab, the way to do it is you take the water with that, you put it into the nostril, and with the left hand, you clean it out like this, and you wash it. Right hand, put it in, left hand, take it out. Right hand, put it in, done that 3 times. Okay? We did the face last week. What was the boundaries of the face? I want to pick on a person. What is the boundaries of the face? Yes? You are including the ears. Okay? You're including, okay, alright. What about you?
Here.
Yes?
Earlobes.
Earlobes? Yes? And the chin. Okay? So the ear is not included in the face. What is included is this boundary. Okay? So it includes the skin just behind the sideburn, goes up to here, and will include this part of the temple. Goes up to the chin. What did I say Imam Shafi'i said about the beard? The Shafi'is have to tell me. Yes.
If it's thick, then it's alright. If it's thin, you need to wash inside.
You need to wash inside as well, but the beard itself needs to be washed. Okay? Yes. Now, so the brother was asking me about how do we do the washing of the beard. So the sunnah is that you take the water with this part of the head and you interlace it like that. It is allowable to go like that as well. Alright? So the method was you took water, and we said the technicality of washing is that the water must drip, right? So you can't just wipe the face and consider that to be sufficient. There must be enough water that water flows from it. So you will cover the face like that, right? And you came back and you did that. But Imam Shafi'i requires that the beard itself is not just wiped, but it is washed as well. Yes.
The beard that's in line with your face.
Yes.
Not the beard that is, Allah, that's what I learned. So the beard that's in line with the face.
It's part of the face.
Is part of that. And
Okay.
if you can see the skin, then you have to wash through.
Yes.
Otherwise, just the beard.
The part that's the outer portion of it.
It's
Yes.
down to here. And
Yeah.
just what's in line with the face.
Okay. Okay. I'll double check it, inshallah. When I read onto this side, I found something different, but I'll double check it for next week, inshallah. So, if you take my beard, for example, it's thin here, right? So the water has to get to the skin here. But here it is thick. So what we will be expected to do here is the water gets to the outer part. It doesn't need to get to the skin here. Just as an example. Interlacing of the fingers like this is a sunnah. When we come to all the limbs, all the fuqaha agree that they are washed 3 times as a sunnah. The difference of opinion comes to the head. Imam al-Shafi'i says that the head is wiped 3 times. Okay? And if you will do it according to the Shafi'i method, you will take water and you will go from the front to the back and then from the back to the front. You take new water. That is in the Shafi'i method. In the Hanafi method and the others as well, Maliki and Ahmad bin Hanbal, it is done once. We mentioned that Imam Malik, the faridah for the head is the entire head, right? What's the definition of the head? From here to the ear level. That's the head. So you will take water and you will cover the entire head. Alright? So even in the sunan of the other madahib is to cover the entire head. Imam Shafi'i says that for the ears you take new water and you wipe the ears 3 times as well. Alright? And Imam Abu Hanifa says that the water that you used for the head, that same water can now be used for the ears as well. So the head and the ear will be once in the Hanafi method, the head and the ears will be 3 times in the Shafi'i method, and new water for the ears, because he considers the ear as a new limb. And each new limb will get its own water. Now, who's prepared to demonstrate how they do their ears? How do you do your ears? Okay. And how do you do your ears? Yes? And then how do you do the back? No, just the ears. So you did this part, and so you use the thumbs. Okay. How do you do your ears? Yes? Okay. Right. See, can you see that all 3 of them did it differently? All right. Now the intent of the wiping of the ears is, and people will criticize you over this, right? The intent is to cover the area, right? And so what you find in books of fiqh is things that the ulama consider to be good. And so one of those methods is to use the fingers for the ears, okay? Use the little finger for the ear canal, with the thumb go to the back of that. Now that's one of the ways that is being considered as good, but the actual intent of it, don't get too fussed over that, is to cover the whole ear. Okay? We mentioned the dalq already, which was to rub the limb. So for example, you put water on your face and you are rubbing it to attain purification. Consecutive from one action to the other, such that if it was a normal weather, alright, and you did the action from one limb to the other consecutively, the previous limb would not get dry. So for example, if it's 50 degrees outside and you're doing wudu, by the time you get to your feet, the face might become dry. That's because it's very hot. But in normal weather, it would not happen. So sometimes what you see people doing, they're doing wudu, they got to their hair, they have a expensive hairstyle. So now they have stopped the whole wudu, they're getting the comb out, doing everything properly, and put the comb back, and then they get to the feet. And that's something that's against the sunnah. You should be doing it consecutively. Fix your hair afterwards. The intention we mentioned last week and is a sunnah in the Hanafi madhab, but the faridah for the others. The order we mentioned already. Now, just to finish off, the right before the left is a sunnah. Okay, so to do the right hand before the left, right arm before the left. The front before the back, the fingertips before the elbow, the toes before the heel. Alright? These last three things I mentioned are recommended as well, not necessary. So if someone has an expensive hairstyle, he wants to go like that, is acceptable, that will cover the faridah. If someone has got a tap going and he finds it easier to go like this instead of like that, that's acceptable as well. And similarly for the feet, both of these things have been found in the sunnah. So it is better, if you can, to go like this. And when I was a fourth year medical student, I entered the theatres, and the scrub nurse taught me how to get ready for surgery. Right? So, alhamdulillah, I didn't become a surgeon. I was never good at it. So, they tell you have to wash your hands and let the water drip outside. I said, subhanAllah, this is from the sunnah as well, And what they're actually teaching us is that if you wash your hands and then you let the water drip this way, the part that you didn't wash, the germs of it eventually then come onto your hands. So when you wash your hands, you go like this, and then you put the gloves on. So, it's amazing how the sunnah actually even combines with the knowledge that we have. Last thing I'll finish with, what time do we? Is it? 39. We'll try and do some of we'll try and finish this inshallah. Wiping the neck is a recommended action in the Hanafi madhab and makruh in the Shafi'i madhab. Okay? So there is ikhtilaf here. Now understand this. There are some things amongst the scholars that one of them saw it as makruh and the other one saw it as a wajib, and some of them saw it as makruh and some of them saw it as a sunnah. An example of this is that in the Hanafi madhab, a muqtadi cannot read anything behind the imam. He cannot read the Fatiha, he cannot read a surah. And Imam Shafi'i says that without Fatiha, there's no prayer. So for one, it is makruh, you cannot read the Fatiha. And Imam Shafi'i is saying, if you don't read it, the prayer is not valid. So can you see how they are completely opposite? Right? And that's why I come back to it and say, don't mix the madhahib, don't pick and choose. You can't pick and choose. So if you're Hanafi, you will go with the back of the hands, you will wipe this. If you're Shafi'i, don't do it. Sorry? Is Imam Ghazali? What does he say? Does he? So he wasn't.
He's a Shafi'i.
Okay, but he says.
Different from.
Okay, so there is an opinion within the Shafi'i madhab. Okay. Sorry, you wipe it. Okay, balance. When the person finishes, what dua does he do? He puts a finger up like this and says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma ja'alni min at-tawabin wa ja'alni min al-mutatahhirin. Facing the qibla if he can, and if he can, this from the adab, that from the water that is left from the wudu, he drinks from it. The Prophet ﷺ, he made wudu with the zamzam water, and then he stood up, he faced the qibla, and he drank from the zamzam. Okay, so that's from the sunnah as well. I'm going to finish with these 2 points that I consider them to be important. The fuqaha said that talking during wudu is makruh, and it is something that we do commonly. To the extent that they said that if someone said assalamu alaikum, that you don't respond back until you finish the wudu. And it's a habit that we have, that we talk during wudu, and we'll have an entire discussion during wudu, and a person should make a habit of not talking. And the last one is, I consider this to be very important, when you consider the sunnah, and a lot of the teachings in the sunnah is not to waste water. And modern taps, like the tap downstairs, is rated at something like 7 liters per minute. Okay? That means you use 7, if you put the tap on full, you would use 7 liters of water in 1 minute. So if on average people take 2.5 minutes to do wudu. The slow people, you see them taking 5 minutes. I have seen teachers who are teaching wudu, they take 35 seconds to do wudu. It's all done. 35 seconds. Okay. The people, they think they are following the sunnah by taking a long time. The tap is open the entire time and they take 5 minutes to do wudu. You have used 35 liters of wudu. Way too much. Against the sunnah. And this, if you will hear this, you will cry. It is that if the water is a public resource, like the masjid, then it is haram. Not just makruh, it is haram. Okay? So you think you are getting the reward, but in actual fact what you are doing is doing something haram, which is giving you sins rather than reward. So you need to learn how to do wudu with minimal amount of water. In the Sadiq, it is mentioned that the minimum amount of water should be 0.51 liters. It shouldn't be any less than that, because if you use less than that, you wouldn't be washing. So it is makruh to use extremely little water. Half a liter is really very little. So, you do need to use some water, but 35 liters of water is really excessive, going into excessive amounts. I'll finish with that, inshallah.